Good evening, Eswatini, and welcome to the 8 p.m. news broadcast live on Eswatini TV. My name is Nondobe Gonzabkeloago, and I'm together with Zama Nzimanze. Let's take a look at tonight's headlines. The Minister of Health says the country's health workers will be the first priority group to receive a COVID-19 vaccine. On another note, the Minister for Health says Prime Minister Ambrose Dlamini is stable and recovering from COVID-19. The House of Assembly has passed two technology-related bills piloted by the Ministry of ICT. And now the news in detail. The Minister for Health, Lizingosi, says the country's health workers will be the first priority group to receive a COVID-19 vaccine when the country receives its vaccines from the COVAX facility. The minister shared this update during a press briefing held at the Cabinet offices today.
The Minister of Health, Lizingosi, says Eswatini is closely monitoring all developments pertaining to the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, especially since the Kingdom is a member of the COVAX facility, which is a global initiative that brings together governments and manufacturers of COVID-19 vaccines to ensure that the vaccines reach those in greatest need wherever they are. The minister says health workers will receive first preference in the allocation of COVID-19 vaccines.
Already been made aware that the initial supply of viable vaccine inevitably limited. The country will be provided with 20% of the population for the first 18 months through the COVAX facility and has an option to procure additional doses at retail price directly from the manufacturers. We have already started work on developing an allocation mechanism to target groups with the aim of reducing mortality and protecting the health system. As a start, healthcare workers will be the first to receive the vaccination to ensure uninterrupted health service delivery. Assessment on vaccine profile and logistics required for delivery of the vaccine to the population have also been conducted to inform the vaccine candidate what would work best for our population and fit our cold chain infrastructure.
By far, 3 pharmaceutical companies, Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca, have announced the outcome of their COVID-19 vaccine trials. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Muzim Konda in Babane.
Members of Parliament say the process to release money from the Regional Development Fund to potential beneficiaries takes as long as 6 years due to unknown reasons. They submitted this concern during a meeting with the Ministry of Dinkhundla Administration, which is aimed at finding a lasting solution to the problems encountered by the public.
The Ministry of Dinkhundla Administration gathered members of Parliament in the Manzini region for 2 reasons, one being to ascertain if they still execute their duties as entrusted by their communities, and also to ascertain if the Racial Development Fund is serving its purpose in the constituencies, and if not, what are the problems and how best can they be addressed. The Minister, David Ngampalala, says the fund is necessary because it is aimed at promoting rural and racial development. The minister says the fund is open to all members of the community to start income-generating projects. Therefore, if there are any problems, they most certainly need to be efficiently addressed.
Siyisebenzisa kanjani iyawasida lamaswati mangabe khona lelingasidakali sesenda ini lapho kuze sikhone ukuthi makhona losalela emuva sibone.
Manzini Racial Administrator Chief Gija says it's important that members of Parliament work hand in hand to ensure that the RDF is a success.
The ultimate target sibukelive ukuthi leyaphelelive hayi inkundla yami singapersonalize.
Paluseni, Member of Parliament Sibusiso Dlamini, says the process to release money from the Racial Development Fund to potential beneficiaries takes years. He says there is a case of a group of young people under his constituency who waited for assistance from the fund for as long as 6 years due to unknown reasons. He says this meeting is long overdue and it must be an ongoing exercise.
Lesinye nje sicelo sasekwaluseni sithathe 6 years.
The meetings will be held regionally, and after this, the ministry will visit members of parliament in the Lubombo region, Shiselweni, and lastly, the Hoho region. Reporting, I'm Lungilele Makakula with Fortune Dlangamandla, Matapa.
The Minister of Health, Lizingosi, has reminded public transport operators and all business owners in Eswatini, especially those operating in the entertainment industry, that it is their responsibility to ensure that all their clients adhere to laid down COVID-19 regulations. The minister, who was speaking during a press conference, also assured the nation that the Prime Minister, Ambrose Dlamini, is recovering from COVID-19 and that his condition in hospital remains stable.
The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Eswatini is yet again on the rise, with 150 people being found to have this disease last week alone. The Minister of Health, Lizingosi, says the rise in cases cannot yet be attributed to the projected second wave, but indicators show that many people are now not very sensitive to the recommended prevention protocols. The minister says all people in the kingdom have a role to play in protecting themselves and others from this disease.
We continue to receive reports of continued disregard of COVID-19 precautionary measures by Emaswati, particularly in the public transport industry, entertainment venues, and some private gatherings. We wish to once again remind public transport operators that it is their responsibility to enforce compliance from their passengers. Likewise, drivers and conductors are bound by the COVID-19 regulations to wear their mask at all times and not to expose their passengers to COVID-19.
In another matter, Minister Ngosi assured the nation that the Prime Minister Ambrose Dlamini is recuperating well in hospital.
His Excellency, the Right Honorable Prime Minister's condition, he is stable, he is recovering, and is still under care in our hospital.
As the festive season draws nearer, the minister encouraged members of the public to stay safe at all times. She also encourages churches and others hosting community events and social gatherings to abide by laid down procedures always. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengwendlovu with Muzim Konda in Babane.
The House of Assembly has passed 2 bills from the Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology. These bills are the Electronic Communication and Transactions Bill 2020, Bill number 20 of 2020, and the Data Protection Bill 2020, Bill number 21 of 2020.
Both bills have been turned back by the House of Assembly numerous times due to hefty fines carried by them. The Minister of Information, Communications and Technology, Portfolio Committee Chairperson Makford Sibanze, is the mover in both motions. He motivated that the bill will help to protect personal information of Emaswati, which is usually sourced illegally and used to blacklist them. He says Eswatini has been lagging behind in implementing these bills and it has been negative impact on the country. He made an example that some countries were willing to work with the Royal Science and Technology Park. He was seconded by Hoho Member of Parliament, Noncedo Puchela.
Live nase Sadak, namanye live nase Sadak, namanye emave as early as 1993 bese vele bakushukumisa lokho bangena kulama bills. So we're siyasalela Honorable Speaker, it's up nathi silive asingasaleli ngoba we are part of SADC protocols.
They're mainly based in South Africa. But ukuthi abakwazi ngathi thina kangwane. Noma ngathi ufuna ngisiya blacklist asendiwa njani asikhona no loans. So let the database ifuna vele ibe controlled le bill sibe nayo ukuthi ngathi sikhona ukuthi sibe protected. Ngoba nasho uthi yabuka nje simsobela sesifinyelela ku cyberspace. Belebonke konke komhlaba jikelele sekuvele ukukhombisa ukudlela kakhona ngalapho mase sisele stabesele phasi thina ngoba lesimo salomhlaba nalesimo sale cyber sale data sekufuna ukuthi vele kuhambisane konke kanye kanye.
The acting Minister of Information, Communications and Technology, Mangoba Khumalo, uploaded the MPs for passing the bills. He says the bills will go a long way in protecting eMaswati in all spheres.
Lo mthetho uphase lokusophasile lo mthetho osutawuqhubekela embili kuyasinika ligunya ukuthi eMaswati yatawuvikeleka ku-cyberspace uma benta electronic transactions.
The members of parliament passed the two bills without debating them, as they feel they have been well debated in previous sessions. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Parliament.
The youth say they are faced with issues that hinder their growth, such as gender-based violence, teenage pregnancy, and access to sexual reproductive health services, and hence have urged legislators to invest in them by amending some of the policies. They said this at the National Youth Indaba on the impact of COVID-19 on sexual reproductive health services education, which was held at the Eswatini Lodge in Matapa.
The National Youth Indaba on the impact of COVID-19 on sexual reproductive health education was organized by FLAS under its campaign Because We Can, which focuses on empowering the youth and amplifying their voices through social media. FLAS Executive Director, who was represented by Pilile Malinzisa, says COVID-19 has washed down efforts by the organization, which has led to unintended pregnancies and many other issues.
They are engaging with the members of parliament to say, what is it, members of parliament, that they can do for them with regards to SRHNR in relation to budgets, in relation to policies, in relation to the laws in the country.
Mrs. Masugu, who spoke on behalf of the youth, says they have seen the rising numbers of teenage pregnancies in the communities, alcohol and drug consumption, and GBV cases, which are being neglected when reported.
We find out the police are not making follow-ups, and also the increase in intake of drugs and alcohol by youth in communities. So we are here to plead with the parliamentarians to please invest in young people.
Speaker in the House of Assembly, Petros Mavimbela, was the guest speaker, says as legislators, they will act on the issues raised by the youth.
Parliament ehamba iyofaka imibuto ifake indima motions nabe zingaka usakhe umthetho vele siwakhe kuze ukuthi sizokhona ukuthi ngobe labantu labasha labayingcenye yale society ngani ngoke kufanele ukuthi lana sebakhulumile siyiparliament ngobe simele bona le eparliament.
According to the Situational and Analysis of Sexual and Gender-Based Violence in an Eswatini report, anger caused loss of control to 62.5% of perpetrators interviewed. Past experience of violence, especially during childhood, was viewed by 77.8% of perpetrators, and violence was considered a sign of bravery by at least 50% of perpetrators. Reporting, I'm Lungilile Makakula with Fortune Dlangamandla, Matapa.
The number of tree seedlings planted in all 4 regions of the country has increased. More than 20,000 tree seedlings have been successfully planted in the country in a space of 2 months. The announcement was made by Mbegeni Ngumalo, Senior Forestry Officer in the Ministry of Tourism and Environmental Affairs, during an interview with the Eswatini TV in Babane.
Following the launch of the program of tree seedlings planting by the Prime Minister a few months ago, the project is going well so far because more than 20,000 tree seedlings have already been successfully planted countrywide. Senior Forestry Officer in the Ministry of Tourism and Environmental Affairs, Mbegeni Ngumalo, says the project is going well so far.
The progress is going on very well, and the interest amongst eMaswati to plant trees is shown to increase. Since the program was launched on the 24th of September, we have managed to plant trees in almost more than 40 areas, and we're still continuing with the planting depending on the requests. When the program was launched, we had more than requests of more than 40,000 tree seedlings. Currently, we can proudly report that we've planted more than 20,000 trees that we've planted in the communities, and some of them they've been planted by individuals. And when we are liaising with the private nurseries, they have also indicated that the sales for trees have increased since the launch took place.
Malo further stated that eMaswati also buy tree seedlings from private nurseries around the country to support the planting of tree seedlings. He also revealed that most schools, communities and individuals are the ones that are interested on tree planting seedling project, and extension officers are making sure that they give advices to eMaswati in ensuring that they choose a tree seedlings good for their soil. For Eswatini TV News, Zoto Atlameni with Muzum Konda in Babane.
Local pharmaceutical supplier and agricultural produce exporter Termis Eswatini, a subsidiary of Termis Life Sciences Africa, has invested $15 million, an equivalent of over 120 million emalangeni, in the construction of a plant which will be used to process essential oils and other beauty products at Nogwane. The latest update on the company's investments was shared by the company's financial director in Eswatini, Chad Slafa.
Artemis Eswatini is a subsidiary of the Artemis Life Science Group in Africa. In Eswatini, the company focuses in 3 areas, which are the supply of pharmaceuticals, agro-processing, with the company's 3rd pillar being in health and beauty products, especially through the use of natural plants such as moringa. Artemis Eswatini's financial director, Chad Slafa, says the Artemis Life Sciences Group has identified Eswatini as an important destination, hence the company's hefty investments in the kingdom lately.
We decided to use Swaziland as a hub to focus on the SADC region, so we could source our products such as moringa, which we currently grow ourselves, marula, baobab, African potato, as well as rosehip. And that's in combination with our sister company in South Africa, and we saw Swaziland as a hub to set up this extraction facility, which should obviously in the future create jobs in terms of, as well as the outgrowing houses and as well as employment within the extraction facility as well. With RSTP, we're working as in the RCP setting up the infrastructure in terms of road infrastructure, importing and exporting, and as well as the obvious tax benefits.
Slafa says Artemis will work closely with local farmers in the production and supply of raw material.
So currently we've got a moringa leaf farm at the moment where we've intercropped with ginger and turmeric. Currently we organically certified to sell and export our moringa powder and as well as our ginger and turmeric. Our kind of plans for the future is to work with the Swade community as well as the Kabokweni community with Swade. In cooperation with Swade, we'll be doing a farming initiative where we would then have our seeds being grown by the farmers, and we would have an offtake agreement with those farmers to buy those seeds. We should obviously also plug into our extraction facility where we'll be using those seeds to cold press into moringa oil, which is used for the cosmeceuticals industry.
Artemis Life Sciences Africa has branches in countries such as Mozambique, Ghana, Angola, Zambia, Malawi, Nigeria, Uganda, and the DRC. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Muzim Konda at Ezulwini.
Mbabane Government Hospital Management has praised the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund for making certain that premature babies and their mothers are well taken care of in order for the babies to grow well. This was said by Matron Nomsa Makanya during the commemoration of World Prematurity Day held at the Mbabane Government Hospital.
World Prematurity Day is commemorated annually to ensure that the premature babies are well taken care of in order for them to grow well and to have a brighter future. Speaking on behalf of Mbabane Government Hospital, Matron Nomsa Makanya conveyed her appreciation to the organization for always supporting the Prematurity Day.
nathi sibambisane nani kulomsebenzi wekuthi labantwana bethu uNkulunkulu asiphe bona ngalesikhathi sonke sisebentele kokuthi bakhule kahle.
UNICEF Health Chief Chiara Prematurity says the government of the kingdom is playing a remarkable role in preventing premature death during childbirth. The women were then donated with gifts from UNICEF and were also taught on how to take care of the premature babies in order for them to grow well and to have a brighter future. For Eswatini TV News, Zoto Atlamin with Patizwe Msibi, Babane.
The Manzini Magistrate Court has granted government an order to attach movable property and house furniture belonging to a businesswoman worth 4 million emalangeni using the Prevention of Organized Crime Act. The name of the businesswoman has been withheld as she has not been charged.
The movable property and house furniture that has been attached by government using the Prevention of Organized Crime Act, POCA, belongs to a businesswoman who was allegedly working in one of the companies at Eswatini. The order was granted by the Manzini Acting Magistrate Sicelo Lokotfayo. In the company, it is said that the businesswoman was working in the account department. It is said that she would transfer the money from the company's bank account to her personal bank account. The movable property attached by government includes 6 light motor vehicles and a lorry, 2 mobile kitchens, while house furnitures include couches, tables, plasma television, to name but a few. This year, there were attempts to suspend the Prevention of Organized Crime Act as some members of parliament felt that it was targeting illegal daga growers. The motion to suspend the act created division among members of parliament as some of them supported the existence of the act. On July this year, government issued a statement stating that the attempt by members of parliament to suspend the act was ineffective as necessary procedures were not followed. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla with Lungelelo Makakula, Manzini.
Let's take a look at the COVID-19 update from the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health has reported 9 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours. In a statement issued by the Minister for Health, a total of 252 results were received today, out of which 9 tested positive, which brings the total number of cases in the country to 6,419. 1 death has been reported in the last 24 hours. This brings total number of deaths to 122. Statement further shows that there are 282 active cases, 6,006 recoveries, and 9 are registered for care. Looking at the cumulative confirmed COVID-19 cases by region, Manzini region has 2,941 cases, Hoho region has 2,395 cases, Lubombo region has 560 cases, while the Shiseleni region has 523 cases of coronavirus. And in our sports news today, the president of the Football Association, Adam Mtsetfa, says they have done all they could to ensure that the under-20 team traveling to South Africa for the COSAFA under-20 tournament are all eligible. Mtsetfa was speaking when bidding farewell to the team at the Technical Center in Lobamba.
The national under-20 team will go to compete in the under-20 COSAFA tournament in South Africa, where they are in Group C along Angola and Botswana. After the under-17 team was disqualified from the tournament, after it was said some players were not eligible to play in that tournament, the Football Association's president, Adam Mtsetfa, says he hopes that every player in the under-20 team is eligible to be part of it.
Sibambisene si National Association clubs lapha nichamka khona nibadlali ne leadership in the form of coach. We do hope ukuthi lapha sesikhona khona sonke siyakufanele lokubadla.
The team's coach, Velekhaya Mtsetfa, says they are looking at hoisting the country's flag very high.
Now it's basically we are the last team from the kingdom to go for these COSAFA tournaments after the Sitebe and the under 17s. And now I think the pressure is on us to perform better in this tournament so that we can host the country's flag high.
Team captain Bongiswa Dlamini says they are promising good results as the selected team is very good, and it's promising that they can be able to come back with good results, and they will fight for every result.
The squad labasibekile lesi siyathembisa kakhulu sizobe nema-result lamahle ngiyathembisa asikayi kunawo le asikayi kuyofunda indzawo sizosebenza umuntu ufuna kubonakala ukuthi ubuya kokula buye nesibani.
The first game will be against Angola on the 3rd of December. This year's finalists will earn a place at next year's AFCON Under-20 tournament. There are 20 players traveling with 8 technical bench. The tournament starts from the 3rd of December to the 13th of December. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizwe Msebi. Lobamba.
The Eswatini Cycling Association's president, Slangun Hlabatsi, says this past weekend's Mandla Smelane Road Classic was a huge success as COVID-19 regulations were followed accordingly and cyclists came in their numbers. The race was staged in Stegi.
The COVID-19 outbreak forced sports in the country to be suspended. 8 months later, the Cycling Association hosted its first competition, which was the Mandla Smelane Road Classic, a tournament organized in honor of the late former president, Mandla Smelane. The race was staged in Setege. There were at least 150 cyclists who took part. The association's president, Slangun Hlabatsi, says they were impressed with the numbers.
Ukuvikela i-COVID-19 sitendile ukuthi akumanetendeke singabhebhedeli ukwenza komkhuhlane.
Hlabatsi says COVID-19 regulations were observed fully so that they may not increase the spread of the virus. He congratulated all the winners, saying it will help them to know who to go for international tournaments. Hlabatsi says they did not really expect such numbers as they were expecting less than 100. He says this shows that cyclists were eager to compete again, as this is also their last tournament for the year.
Simangalisile nathi ukuthi abantu vele bayafuna ukugibela ibhayisikili siyababonga nje ama-cyclists lokuba khona kwabo besicabanga ethini ukuthi sidawuba nebantu letlist lababelikhulu but sikhonile kuba nabantu bebengcako elikhulile.
In the 115-kilometer category, Morgan Road for men and Dennis Wilch for women were the winners. In the 60 kilometers, Temgos Kumalo and Shelly Mota came first. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizwe Msebi, Stegi.
Well, that's how we come to the end of our news bulletin. But before we leave, let's take a quick recap of the headlines. The Minister of Health says the country's health workers will be the first priority group to receive a COVID-19 vaccine. On another note, the Minister for Health says Prime Minister Ambrose Dlamini is stable and recovering from COVID-19. The House of Assembly has passed 2 technology-related bills piloted by the Ministry of ICT. Eswatini, well, that's it from us tonight. Up next is the weather forecast. Good night and God bless.